Please pretend to love me." The poor girl begged the CEO in front of her ex-boyfriend. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. It was a rainy evening in the city when Lisa found herself standing at the entrance of an upscale restaurant, a place she never thought she would step foot in. She looked down at her worn shoes, the scuffed soles barely clinging to the pavement. Her second-hand dress was old, with its edges fraying just a little too much. She ran her fingers nervously through her tangled hair, taking in a deep breath. She had promised her best friend Jenny that she would go through with this blind date, but everything about the night felt wrong. What am I doing here? Lisa whispered to herself as she clutched her purse, her hands trembling slightly. As she entered the restaurant, the hum of quiet conversations and the soft clink of silverware filled the air, making the place feel even more intimidating. She looked around the elegant dining room, scanning the tables. "Table C," she murmured under her breath, her heart racing. There, at the far end of the room, sat a man dressed in a sharp suit, engrossed in his phone, looking as if he belonged in this world of luxury. That must be him, she thought. She walked over, her steps faltering slightly as the nerves built up. "Hi, you must be Kevin," she said, her voice shaky but forced into a smile. The man looked up, his eyes flickering with confusion as he blinked at her, taking a moment to gather himself. Hi, Lisa?" His voice was calm, but something about the way he said her name made her pause. She smiled awkwardly, misreading his hesitation as shyness. "Yeah, I know this is awkward. Blind dates are always weird, right?" She slid into the seat across from him, her hands fidgeting in her lap as she tried to make herself comfortable. She laughed nervously, continuing the conversation. "Jenny told me you might be a little shy, so I can talk enough for both of us." He opened his mouth as if to correct her but stopped when his phone buzzed, a quick message appearing on the screen. His brow furrowed for a moment before he placed his phone back down, and his gaze softened. Right, blind dates or something else. Lisa felt a brief moment of relief. At least he wasn't as uncomfortable as she was. The conversation continued, though a little awkwardly. She shared stories about her life, about her job as a waitress and the small dreams she had, including her desire to one day open her own art studio. In return, he spoke about working in tech vague enough to make Lisa curious, but not detailed enough to reveal anything more. As they spoke, she found herself laughing more than she expected. His quiet, reserved demeanor was oddly comforting. He wasn't like the other men she had dated, those who were loud and boastful about their wealth and status. The more she spoke, the more she forgot about her nervousness, her life outside this fancy restaurant, and the growing pressure in her chest. But then, just as she was about to ask him more about his tech job, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Her heart sank as she read the message. "Hey Lisa, where are you? I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you." The words hit her like a punch. She looked up at the man sitting across from her, feeling her cheeks flush with embarrassment. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. He blinked, guilt flashing in his eyes. "No, I'm not," he admitted, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. Lisa's stomach churned with embarrassment as she stood up abruptly, her face burning. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she muttered as she grabbed her coat and made her way to the door. She couldn't bear to look back, but as she stepped out into the cold night, she found herself thinking about the man she had just mistaken for a blind date. There was something about him, something genuine. And even though she had run off in embarrassment, she couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, she hadn't completely ruined the night after all. As she walked back to her tiny apartment, the thought of that encounter stayed with her. But what she didn't know, as she closed the door behind her, was that Liam Parker, who she had mistaken for someone else, was already thinking about her too. After that embarrassing night, Lisa tried to put the whole experience behind her. She had no idea why the brief encounter with the man she'd mistaken for her blind date lingered in her thoughts. Maybe it was the way he didn't immediately correct her, or how his soft smile had made her feel at ease for the first time in a long while. She couldn't shake the memory, even as she walked through the busy streets the following week, running errands and thinking about her life. At 26, she was still a waitress, barely getting by, with a dream of opening her own art studio that seemed more distant than ever. But the world wasn't kind to people like her. Life had a way of pushing her down, and her dreams were always a little too far out of reach. That was until one afternoon, just as she was finishing a shift at the diner, her phone buzzed with an unexpected message. It was from a number she didn't recognize, but the name was familiar. Liam Parker. She froze. She hadn't seen him since that awkward night at the restaurant, but she remembered his name as clearly as if it had just happened yesterday. The message was brief. "Hey, it's Liam. Would you like to grab coffee sometime? I'd love to make it up to you for the mix-up." She stared at the screen for a moment, unsure whether she was dreaming. Was he really reaching out to her, after everything that happened? Her first instinct was to ignore the message, to dismiss it as some mistake. But then she thought about it again. Maybe this was her chance to turn things around. After all, what did she have to lose? With a deep breath, she typed a quick response. "Sure, coffee sounds great. When?" A few minutes later, he replied, "How about tomorrow? I'll pick you up." Lisa's heart raced as she stared at the screen. She wasn't sure what she was expecting, but this wasn't it. She had no idea what she was doing, or why she agreed, but something inside her told her she needed to see this through. The next day, she found herself standing outside her apartment building, waiting for him to show up. She wore a simple dress, the best one she owned, and tried to smooth down her hair, though it never quite behaved the way she wanted it to. When Liam's sleek black car pulled up in front of her, her breath caught in her throat. He stepped out, looking as polished and put together as ever, his dark hair neatly styled, and a slight smile on his face. "Hey Lisa, you look great," he said, his voice warm. But there was something more in his eyes, something deeper. He wasn't just being polite. "Thanks," she managed to say, suddenly feeling very self-conscious under his gaze. "Ready for that coffee?" "I am," she replied, her heart pounding. As they drove to the coffee shop, Lisa couldn't stop herself from stealing glances at him. He was nothing like the men she usually met. There was a quiet intensity about him, an air of confidence that made her feel both nervous and oddly comfortable at the same time. They arrived at the cafe, a small, cozy place that smelled like freshly baked pastries and rich coffee. As they sat down, Lisa found herself relaxing more than she expected. She couldn't pinpoint exactly why, but the conversation flowed easily between them. And for the first time in a long while, she wasn't thinking about her struggles or her problems. She was just present. They talked about everything and nothing about her dreams of opening an art studio, about his work in tech, about life in the city. She was surprised to find that they had more in common than she thought. He wasn't the cold, distant man she imagined him to be. There was a softness to him that she hadn't expected. As they finished their coffee, Lisa felt a sense of ease she hadn't felt in ages. But just as she was about to leave, Liam said something that made her stop in her tracks. "Lisa, I know this is a little sudden, but I've been thinking about our last meeting. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not just some random guy who sits at the wrong table. I'm Liam Parker, the CEO of a tech company." The words hung in the air between them, and for a moment, Lisa didn't know how to respond. She blinked, trying to process what he had just said. This wasn't just a random guy who had made a mistake. This was Liam Parker, the man behind the business world that she had only ever heard about in passing. Her stomach churned with a mix of surprise and confusion. "You're the CEO?" she finally managed to ask, her voice trembling slightly. "I am," he confirmed, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her heart skip a beat. Lisa felt her mind racing. She had been sitting across from a billionaire this entire time, and she had no idea. She suddenly felt incredibly small, out of place, and unsure of herself. But then Liam's next words threw her off balance. "But that's not what matters right now. What matters is the connection we've built, and the fact that I've enjoyed our time together. I want to get to know you better, Lisa." His words felt like a lifeline pulling her out of her doubts, and for the first time, Lisa believed him. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the start of something real. The days that followed felt like a blur for Lisa. She kept replaying the conversation with Liam over and over in her mind. How could she not have known who he was? Liam Parker, the CEO of a tech company? The same Liam who had sat across from her that night in the restaurant, the man she had mistaken for someone else. But now, everything felt different. She couldn't stop thinking about him, about the way he had looked at her, the kindness in his eyes when he revealed who he really was. It was as if the world had shifted beneath her feet. Despite the shock, Lisa couldn't deny that a part of her felt a strange sense of relief. The whole experience felt like a dream, yet it was so real. She had spent years working 2 jobs just to make ends meet, always feeling like she was stuck in a cycle with no way out. But with Liam, things seemed to be changing in a way she never thought possible. He didn't treat her like the poor girl from the diner. Instead, he treated her like an equal. It was something Lisa hadn't experienced in a long time. The next week, Liam invited her to a charity event his company was hosting. He had asked her in a way that made her feel special, like he truly wanted her there. "I would really like you to come," he said during one of their phone calls. "It's a formal event, but I think you'd enjoy it. Plus, I'd love to show you around and introduce you to some people." Lisa wasn't sure what to expect, but she agreed to go. When the night of the event arrived, she found herself standing in front of her mirror, unsure of what to wear. She had never been to something this fancy before, and the thought of attending a high-profile event made her nervous. But as she stood there, staring at the simple black dress she had bought on sale months ago, she realized something. For the first time in a long while, she was excited. She wasn't just going to the event to represent herself or to feel out of place. She was going to be there with Liam. As she arrived at the event, Lisa was immediately struck by how different the world around her felt. The venue was grand, with crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, and everyone was dressed to the nines. She felt like she had stepped into a different world altogether. Liam spotted her as soon as she entered the room, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. "You look amazing," he said, his voice soft and genuine. Lisa smiled, feeling her nerves melt away at the compliment. The night unfolded in a blur of faces and names, but through it all, Liam stayed by her side. They shared laughs, and as the evening went on, Lisa began to feel more at ease. She wasn't just a waitress in a fancy dress. She was someone Liam actually wanted to spend time with. As the night went on, Lisa found herself talking to some of the other guests. At first, she was intimidated by their wealth and status, but with Liam beside her, she felt a sense of belonging she hadn't felt in years. He introduced her to everyone with ease, and each time he did, she couldn't help but notice how people seemed to genuinely respect him, not just because of his wealth, but because of his character. As the evening drew to a close, Liam took her aside for a quiet moment away from the crowd. "I'm really glad you came tonight," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I know this is all new to you, and I appreciate you stepping into my world, but I also want to make sure you're comfortable. I'm not asking for anything, just that we enjoy each other's company." His words caught Lisa off guard, but in the best way possible. She had never felt so seen, so understood. "I'm glad I came too," she replied, her heart fluttering in her chest. "I never imagined I'd be here, let alone with you." Liam smiled, a look of tenderness in his eyes. "This is just the beginning, Lisa. There's so much more to life than what we've known so far. I'm looking forward to discovering it with you." His words left her breathless. As they stood there, away from the bustling crowd, Lisa realized that for the first time she didn't feel out of place. She wasn't just pretending to belong, she actually did. Liam had shown her a world she never thought was possible, and it wasn't just the luxury or the status. It was the way he made her feel. For once, she didn't have to hide behind a mask. He saw her for who she truly was. As they left the event, Liam walked her to her car, his hand gently resting on the small of her back. "I'll call you tomorrow," he said, his voice filled with promise. Lisa nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness in her chest. She wasn't sure where this would lead, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was on the edge of something beautiful. She drove home that night, her mind racing with thoughts of Liam, of the future, and of the possibility that maybe, just maybe, this could be the beginning of something real. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of events and emotions for Lisa. She found herself spending more and more time with Liam, and with each passing day she realized that the connection they shared was growing stronger. They spent long afternoons together, talking about their dreams, their fears, and everything in between. Lisa felt like she had known him forever, but also like she was discovering new things about him every time they met. Despite their differences, his wealth and status, her humble background, they had managed to find a common ground that made the world feel smaller and more manageable. But as much as Lisa was beginning to let herself fall for him, she couldn't ignore the nagging feeling at the back of her mind. She still wasn't sure where she fit into his world. Sure, he was kind, thoughtful, and seemed genuinely interested in her. But what did he want from her? Was it really love? Or was she just a temporary distraction for him, a way to escape the pressures of his high-profile life? These thoughts had been weighing heavily on her, but she pushed them aside whenever she was with him. It was easier that way, and she didn't want to risk ruining what they had. One evening, after another charity event he had invited her to, they sat on the balcony of his penthouse, overlooking the glittering city below. The lights of the city seemed to stretch on forever, and the view was breathtaking, but Lisa couldn't shake the unease in her chest. Liam, however, seemed completely at ease. He leaned back in his chair, looking out over the city as he spoke. "You know, Lisa, I never imagined I'd find someone like you," he said, his voice quiet but full of emotion. "I've been to so many events, met so many people, but none of them felt real like this does." His words caught her off guard. She looked at him, searching his face for any hint of insincerity, but all she saw was sincerity. "I never expected to feel this way," he continued, his eyes meeting hers. "You make everything feel possible. You remind me of what really matters." Lisa felt her heart skip a beat. Could it be? Was he actually feeling the same way she was? She wanted to believe him, but her doubts kept creeping in. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Liam, she started, but she couldn't find the words. How could she explain her fears without sounding like she was overthinking everything? He seemed to sense her hesitation and reached for her hand, gently squeezing it. "You don't have to say anything, Lisa," he said, his voice soft. "I know you're scared, and I understand. But you don't have to be afraid of what we have. I'm not here to play games with you. I'm here because I care about you." His words hit her like a wave, washing over her with a mix of relief and uncertainty. She had wanted to hear him say those words, but now that he had, she didn't know how to react. She pulled her hand away gently, her thoughts racing. "Liam, I'm just not sure," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I fit into your world. You're a CEO and I'm just me. What if I'm not enough?" He looked at her with a mixture of tenderness and understanding, his eyes softening as he leaned closer. "You are enough, Lisa. You don't have to be anyone else. You don't have to fit into a mold. I want you to be you, the person I've come to know and care about." His words were like a balm to her wounded heart, but the doubt still lingered. How could she be the person he needed when she didn't even feel like she belonged in the same world as him? She wanted to believe him, but the thought of being exposed, of opening herself up completely, terrified her. She sat there, silent for a moment, trying to process everything he had said. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "What happens next, Liam? What does this mean for us?" He took a deep breath and smiled, his hand gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "What happens next is up to us, Lisa. I'm not going anywhere, and I want to explore this with you. Whatever comes, we'll figure it out together." Lisa felt a weight lift off her shoulders as he spoke. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe in the possibility of something real. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she was willing to take the leap with him. As they sat together on the balcony, the city lights twinkling around them, Lisa knew that this was just the beginning of something incredible. Over the next few weeks, Lisa and Liam's connection continued to grow, but it wasn't without its challenges. The doubts that had lingered in Lisa's mind were still there, tugging at her every time she caught a glimpse of Liam's world. She tried her best to stay grounded, to believe in what they had, but there was always that nagging feeling that she didn't belong in his high-powered world. Despite his reassuring words, Lisa couldn't help but feel out of place in the circles he moved in. She had always lived in the shadows, never quite fitting in with the polished and sophisticated people around her. As much as Liam tried to make her feel comfortable, the stark contrast between their worlds was impossible to ignore. One evening, after a quiet dinner at Liam's apartment, he noticed the distance in Lisa's eyes. It wasn't the physical distance, but the emotional one. She had been quieter than usual, lost in her own thoughts, her fingers nervously playing with the edge of her napkin. He could tell something was off. "Lisa, what's going on?" Liam asked softly, his voice gentle but filled with concern. She looked up at him, her heart heavy with words she couldn't find the courage to say. "I don't know if I can do this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can be a part of this world." Liam frowned, clearly confused. "What do you mean? What world?" "Your world," she said, her voice breaking. "It's so different from mine. You live in a world of power, of wealth, of business deals and events, and I don't even know how to fit in. I'm just me." Her words hung in the air, thick with the weight of her vulnerability. Liam sat in silence for a moment, processing what she had said. Then, slowly, he reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "Lisa, look at me," he said, his voice firm but kind. "You don't have to fit into any world but the one where you're happy, where you're yourself. I don't want you to change for me, or for anyone. I want you to be the woman I've come to care for." Lisa's heart fluttered in her chest as his words sank in. She hadn't expected him to understand, but here he was, seeing her in a way no one else ever had. She felt a lump form in her throat as she tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Liam continued, his gaze softening. "I've seen you. I know what you're capable of. You're kind, thoughtful, and you have a heart that's bigger than any business deal I've ever made. You don't have to be a part of my world to make a difference in it. Just by being you, you've already made an impact on my life." His words felt like a balm, soothing the insecurities that had been eating away at her. She had always felt like an outsider, but Liam had shown her that it was okay to be herself. "I just want to be with you, Lisa," he said, his voice low, almost pleading. "Whatever happens, let's take this one step at a time. No pressure, no expectations, just us." Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes, and she didn't try to stop them. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she could let go, like she didn't have to carry the weight of her doubts anymore. Liam gently wiped away a tear that had escaped down her cheek, his touch tender and reassuring. "It's okay," he said softly, his voice full of warmth. "We'll figure it out together." The words were simple, but they carried so much meaning. In that moment, Lisa realized that love wasn't about fitting into someone else's world or changing who you were. It was about finding someone who loved you for exactly who you were, flaws and all. And with Liam, she felt like she had found that person. As the days passed, Lisa began to relax into their relationship, letting go of the insecurities that had once held her back. She started to see the beauty in the way Liam cared for her, not just as a woman he was dating, but as a person he genuinely respected. And in turn, she found herself falling deeper for him, not because of his wealth or status, but because of the man he was. Liam never pressured her to be anything other than herself, and that was exactly what Lisa needed. Slowly, they began to build something real, something that felt like it could last. There were no more doubts, no more second-guessing. Lisa had learned to trust him, to trust what they had, and that made all the difference. One evening, as they sat on the rooftop of Liam's penthouse, watching the sunset together, Lisa turned to him with a smile. "I'm ready," she said softly. "I'm ready to take this step with you." Liam smiled back, his eyes filled with love. "And I'm ready to take it with you, Lisa." In that moment, everything felt perfect. Their worlds were no longer separate, they had become one. And for the first time, Lisa knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. As the weeks passed, Lisa and Liam's relationship blossomed in ways that neither of them had expected. The doubts that had once clouded Lisa's mind began to fade as she found herself more comfortable in her own skin. She had never imagined that she would be able to balance her life with someone as powerful as Liam, but somehow they made it work. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever was, but it was real. Liam continued to show her that love wasn't about wealth or status. It was about trust, respect, and understanding. Their time together was filled with simple moments, like enjoying a quiet dinner at home or watching a movie on the couch. These were the moments that reminded Lisa of what really mattered, and she cherished them. One evening, Liam took her to a small park near his office, a place he had often visited when he needed to clear his mind. As they walked hand in hand, the night air was cool, and the city lights cast a soft glow around them. "I love this place," Liam said, squeezing her hand. "It's peaceful here. No business deals, no phone calls, just us." Lisa smiled, feeling a sense of calm wash over her. For a moment, the weight of the world felt far away, as if nothing could break the serenity of this moment. "It's nice," she agreed, glancing up at him. "It feels like we can just be ourselves here." They sat on a bench, watching as people passed by, going about their lives. The noise of the city seemed distant, and for the first time, Lisa felt like she wasn't just a part of the crowd, she was exactly where she was meant to be. As they sat in silence, enjoying the stillness, Lisa's mind wandered to the future. She hadn't thought about it much before, too caught up in the present, but now she could see the possibilities. Maybe she could actually make her dream of opening an art studio a reality. Maybe she could build a future with Liam. The thought of it made her heart race with excitement, but also fear. She had never had a future that seemed so certain before, and yet, with Liam, it felt like anything was possible. "Liam," she said quietly, breaking the silence, "do "Do you ever think about the future?" He turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "All the time," he said, his voice gentle. "But I don't think about it in the way most people do. I don't think about the business, or the money, or any of that. I think about the people in my life, my family, my friends, and now, you." Lisa felt her heart swell at his words. "I think about the future too," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't know what it looks like. I'm still trying to figure it out." Liam reached over, placing his hand on hers. "We'll figure it out together," he said softly. "One step at a time. You don't have to have it all figured out now. What matters is that we're in this together." His words were a balm to her fears, easing the worries that had been swirling in her mind. She didn't have to know exactly what the future held. What mattered was that they were moving forward together, and that felt like enough. As they stood up to leave, Liam pulled her into a gentle embrace, holding her close as they stood there for a moment, letting the world around them continue to spin without them. For Lisa, it felt like the first time in a long while that she could breathe easy, without the weight of the past or the uncertainty of the future pressing down on her. Liam had given her the one thing she had never truly had hope, and for the first time, she felt like she could truly trust the future, knowing that no matter what it held, they would face it together. The days turned into weeks, and their bond only deepened. They began to plan more for the future, not just their relationship, but their individual dreams as well. Lisa found the courage to look into art galleries, to reach out to people in the art community, and to finally take steps toward opening her own studio. She had Liam by her side, supporting her every step of the way. For the first time in her life, she felt like she wasn't just surviving, she was truly living. But it wasn't just her dreams that were coming true. Liam, too, had started to see the world through a different lens. He had been so focused on business, on success, on building his empire. But Lisa showed him that there was more to life than that. She reminded him of the things he had been missing, the simple joys of life, the beauty of love, and the importance of living in the moment. As they moved forward, Lisa and Liam grew even closer, and together, they began to create a life that was uniquely their own, one that was filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. As Lisa continued to take steps toward her dream of opening her own art studio, the bond between her and Liam grew stronger with each passing day. They had become partners not only in their relationship but in each other's growth. For Lisa, the idea of running her own studio had once seemed like a distant dream, but now it was becoming a reality. With Liam's encouragement, she found herself connecting with artists, attending gallery events, and putting together her portfolio. Every step, no matter how small, brought her closer to the life she had always wanted. Liam, too, was growing in ways he never expected. His life had always been about success business meetings, high-end events, and making deals, but Lisa showed him the beauty in simplicity. She reminded him that love and happiness weren't just about accomplishments and accolades, but about being present in the moment and cherishing the people around him. Despite their different worlds, Lisa and Liam had found a way to merge their lives together. They spent evenings working side by side, Lisa sketching designs for her art studio while Liam tackled his business deals. But it was never just about the work. They made time for each other, whether it was sharing a quiet dinner or taking long walks in the park, talking about their dreams and the future. Then, one afternoon, as they were sitting in the small cafe where they had first met for coffee, Liam surprised Lisa with a question that had been on his mind for weeks. "Lisa," he began, his voice serious, yet soft, "have you thought about what comes next for us?" Lisa paused, setting down her coffee cup, her gaze meeting his. "What do you mean?" she asked, her heart suddenly racing. "I mean, I know we've been taking things one step at a time, and I'm happy with that," he said, reaching for her hand across the table. "But I can't help but wonder if we're ready for the next chapter. What do you think?" Lisa felt a rush of emotions flood her chest. For so long she had been unsure of what the future held, afraid of getting too close to someone who lived in a world so different from her own. But now, with Liam, things were different. She had found someone who not only accepted her but loved her for who she truly was. "I think," she started, her voice barely above a whisper, "I think I'm ready." Liam's eyes softened and he smiled. "I've been thinking about it too. We've built something incredible, Lisa. I don't want to wait too long to take that next step with you." The way he spoke made Lisa's heart swell. It was the first time she had truly felt that everything they had shared was leading to something even more beautiful than she had ever imagined. "What do you have in mind?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. Liam took a deep breath, his gaze filled with determination. I've been thinking about the future, and I want to take that step with you, in a way that shows you just how serious I am." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "I want to marry you, Lisa." Lisa blinked, stunned by the suddenness of the question. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw nothing but sincerity. The shock wore off quickly, replaced by a wave of emotion that swept over her. She had never imagined that her life would lead her to this point. She had always believed that love was something that happened to other people, that her own dreams were too far-fetched to ever come true. But here she was, sitting across from a man who had not only accepted her flaws but loved her because of them. "Liam," she whispered, her voice shaking slightly. "You're serious?" He nodded, squeezing her hand. "I've never been more serious about anything in my life. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to build a future with you, no matter what that looks like. I want to be by your side as you chase your dreams, just like you've been by mine." Lisa felt her heart swell, her emotions rising to the surface. It wasn't just the words he was saying, it was the way he made her feel. He wasn't asking her to change or become someone else. He was asking her to be the person she had always been, the person he had fallen in love with. "I don't know what the future holds, Liam," Lisa said softly, "but I know that I want to be with you. I want to take that next step too." Liam's smile widened, and he leaned across the table, pulling her into a kiss that felt like the beginning of everything. The kiss wasn't just an affirmation of love, it was a promise, a vow that they would face whatever challenges came their way, together. As they pulled away, both smiling with the same joy in their eyes, Lisa realized that this was the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. They had both been through so much, yet together they had created something beautiful, something worth fighting for. The future no longer seemed so uncertain, because now they had each other, and that was all they needed. As the days passed, Lisa and Liam began to plan their future together, building a life that was a perfect blend of their worlds. It wasn't always easy, but the love and trust they shared made every challenge seem surmountable. The proposal had changed everything. It wasn't just about getting married, it was about making a commitment to each other, to building something real, something they could both hold on to as they navigated the uncertainties of life. Lisa's art studio dream was no longer a distant hope. It was becoming a reality, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride every time she thought about it. Liam stood by her every step of the way, offering his support without hesitation. But even as their personal lives blossomed, the reality of their different worlds still lingered in the background. Lisa sometimes found herself feeling out of place in the circles Liam frequented: high-profile business events, charity galas, and endless meetings with influential people. But every time she felt that familiar pang of insecurity, Liam was there, reminding her that she belonged by his side, that nothing about her was less than perfect for him. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Liam took Lisa to a quiet rooftop garden he had recently discovered. The city lights stretched out before them, the hum of life in the distance a soft background to the peaceful moment they shared. As they sat together, Lisa rested her head on Liam's shoulder, feeling the warmth of his presence as they enjoyed the quiet. "I can't believe how far we've come," Lisa said softly, breaking the comfortable silence between them. "A year ago, I was just trying to get by, and now I'm planning my own studio, and we're planning a life together." Liam smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It's incredible, isn't it?" he said, his voice filled with admiration. "But you did this, Lisa. You worked hard for this. I'm just here to support you." Lisa looked up at him, her heart swelling with affection. "I couldn't have done it without you. You've believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." "That's what love is, isn't it?" Liam replied softly. "Believing in each other, even when the world tells you otherwise." Lisa smiled, her eyes glistening with emotion. She had never imagined that she would find someone like Liam, someone who saw her for who she truly was, and loved her despite the differences in their backgrounds. They had created something beautiful together, and it wasn't just about their dreams. It was about the way they made each other feel every single day. They had both come so far, but the journey wasn't over. There were still obstacles to face, moments of doubt to conquer, but they would face them together. As they sat there, watching the sunset, Lisa felt a sense of peace that had eluded her for so long. She had found a home in Liam, and she knew that, no matter where life took them, they would always have each other. Just as the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, Liam turned to her, his voice low but filled with certainty. "I don't want to wait any longer," he said, his eyes filled with determination. "Let's make this official. Let's get married." Lisa's breath caught in her throat, her heart racing. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," he replied, taking her hand in his. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Lisa. We've already built something incredible, and I want to take that next step with you, whatever comes our way." Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes as she gazed at him, her heart overflowing with love. "Yes," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes, I want that too." Liam smiled, pulling her into a tight embrace. "Then it's settled. We'll make it official, and we'll face everything together." The weight of his words settled over her, filling her with a sense of security she had never known before. She had spent so many years feeling uncertain, unsure of her place in the world. But now, with Liam, she knew where she belonged. They had come so far, and the future was brighter than ever. As the stars began to twinkle above them, Lisa felt a sense of joy that she had never felt before. This was it, the beginning of their forever. The journey wasn't always easy, but as long as they had each other, nothing else mattered. Together, they would face whatever came their way, and Lisa knew that as long as Liam was by her side, everything would be okay. As the days turned into weeks, Lisa and Liam's bond only grew stronger. They had faced their fears, their doubts, and the insecurities that came with their vastly different worlds. But through it all, they had found something real, something worth fighting for. The plans for their wedding were coming together beautifully, and Lisa couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for everything she had experienced. Not just the success of her art studio, which was now becoming a thriving hub for local artists, but the love she had found in Liam. He had shown her that true love wasn't about status, wealth, or fitting into someone else's world. It was about acceptance, kindness, and mutual respect. It was about seeing each other's flaws and loving them anyway. The morning of their wedding day arrived, and Lisa couldn't believe how far they had come. She stood in front of the mirror, gazing at the woman she had become. She was no longer the insecure girl who felt like an outsider. She had built a life for herself, and now she was about to marry the man she loved. She thought back to the day they met, the awkward blind date that had turned into something so much more. It felt like a lifetime ago. As she put on her wedding dress, the soft fabric swirling around her, she smiled, knowing that this day wasn't just about the ceremony, it was about the love they had cultivated, the life they had built, and the future they would share. Liam, on the other hand, was waiting for her at the altar, his heart pounding in his chest. He couldn't believe this day had finally arrived. He had never imagined that he would find someone like Lisa, someone who had not only challenged him but helped him grow in ways he never thought possible. He had been through many business deals, high-stakes meetings, and countless social events, but nothing compared to the love he had found with Lisa. As he stood there, waiting for her to walk down the aisle, he couldn't help but smile. He knew that this was the best decision he had ever made. The moment Lisa appeared at the end of the aisle, his breath caught in his throat. She looked stunning, radiant, and everything he had ever dreamed of. As she walked toward him, their eyes locked, and in that moment, everything else faded away. The world was just the two of them, about to begin the rest of their lives together. When the ceremony was over and they were pronounced husband and wife, Lisa and Liam shared a kiss that sealed their promises to each other. It wasn't just a kiss of love, it was a kiss of commitment, a kiss that symbolized all the struggles they had overcome and the future they were about to embark on together. As they walked down the aisle hand in hand, their friends and family cheering behind them, Lisa felt a sense of peace that she had never known before. She had found her place, her purpose, and most of all, her person. Liam had shown her that no matter where life took them, they would always have each other. The journey wasn't always easy, but they had proven that with love, patience, and trust, they could face anything. Their love story had come full circle, from a chance encounter to a lifetime of shared dreams and experiences. Lisa smiled up at Liam, her heart full. "This is just the beginning," she whispered, her voice filled with excitement and joy. Liam squeezed her hand, his eyes filled with love. "The best beginning?" he replied, kissing her forehead. Together, they walked into the future, ready to face whatever it had in store for them. They had already built something incredible, and now they were ready to build the rest of their lives together forever.